270, and with me is Roy.
Oh, I'm on top of the world. The Padres are 5-0, baby.
Dude, holy Roy, or holy sheets, or what?
Holy sheets. Yeah. Last night, so Angela and I, we went to Thursday, Friday, and then last night. Last night, he hits that double. We're sitting up the right field side, and all of a sudden, the next section over, these guys start chanting out, holy sheets, holy sheets. And I'm trying to be very careful. I'm pronouncing it so you're clear what I'm saying.
Right.
But next thing you know, the whole side of the stadium was chanting that. What a start to the season for Gavin Sheets, and what a start to the season for the San Diego Padres.
It couldn't really be going any better. And it's funny. It's kind of like with the other team having not lost the game yet. It's almost like which team blinks first to get a loss. It has been phenomenal, but it's early. But it has been phenomenal first 5 games, and we couldn't. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more. The production up and down the line. It's not. It's it's not just one guy carrying the team. Everyone. Now
Right.
I'm expecting Crone to get a hit every time, and haven't been the biggest Corone fan in the past. And, Jason Hayward getting a knock. Those 2 balls that he hit the other night definitely go out a month from now. Like in mid-May, those balls are going out. So,
All
yeah.
right. Well, today, so we're here to talk about the first weekend of the Padres season, also the first weekend of the Chihuahua season. But we just chatted with Kyle Glaser, formerly of Baseball America, now writer for MLB.com and host of the Friar Territory podcast. So we got his thoughts about the start of the baseball season, the start of the Padres season, what they're doing right, what's exciting, what's surprising. And then we tried to pick his brain a little bit about what's
Yeah.
going on the AAA side of things, who might be contributing a little bit later on this season, what might be going on, one step below the major league level.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was really great to reconnect with him. I think he was in the press box when we talked to him. Some really good insights. And you guys check out Friar Territory when you get a chance. Go to YouTube, like, subscribe, and check it out. But meanwhile, let's talk about let's keep talking about the games. And it's been phenomenal. And there's a lot of question marks going into the season.
Exciting.
Yeah. We didn't know what to
There's
get.
been so much different stuff going on. There's been crazy plays happening all over the place. Jeremiah Estrada threw a third pitch pass ball all the way to the backstop, bounced all the way back to him, and he made the play to first base. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Jay Cronenworth hitting that ball off the bottom of the pitcher's foot that went into the dugout for a ground rule double, shortest ground rule double ever. It's just crazy stuff happening all over the place.
Finally, those things really kind of turning our way up into the Gib Arias interference with Manny Machado in the double play. I wasn't watching it at that time. I was looking at my phone, and it double played, and I'm like, did he get caught? Did they both get caught stealing? Because Austin Hedges was the second guy behind Arias. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. It could have been a double play because he's super slow. But, seeing the interference, a heads up play, it's just one of those things where all the things going our way, but those aren't the things that are making the games, that are winning the games. It's just one of the accoutrements, as you would say, just one of the little things that happen during the game that adds to the confidence and just the winning culture that's starting to go on. It's just crazy.
Now, there was a little bit of controversy around that play that you just described. So we were at the game. We saw that happen. I saw the interference happen. But apparently the Guardians broadcast, they were complaining that there should have been a balk on the call. And next thing you know, on social media, you've got people all over the place trying to tear this play apart about something that Kyle Hart did in their eyes that they think represented a balk. I've seen that play so many times now. I've clicked through it frame by frame. I don't see anything he did wrong. He disengaged from the rubber, spun, made the throw directly to third base, exactly as you would coach anybody to do. But we get a little bit of controversy going. But yeah, no, to your point, the Padres are moving the runner over. They're trying to take the extra bag. They're beating out the potential double play ball. Clean defense, smart defense. That was the other part of that play was Manny Machado's awareness, and he kind of sold it that Arias made contact with him. Arias kind of wrapped him up, and then he went like he was making the motion to throw. The ball wasn't in his hand,
Hmm.
but the motion was there. And if you read the rule book, he doesn't have to attempt to throw.
Yeah.
Really, as long as his impediment kept him from being able to continue the play, then it's interference. But yeah, smart defense, clean defense, good base running, timely hitting. They're doing all the right things right now. And the bullpen they're perfect.
Manny Machado being partial owner of a Major League Soccer team now, he has to learn how to flop. So I'm sure he's learned how to flop on the Major League Baseball field. But to your point on the pitching, my first right.
It's a good connection.
Right.
Maybe he's learned that being around those soccer players.
Thinking of the starting pitching, Michael King, who pitches tonight, not having the greatest start, but the team picking him up. And then the second night you got Cease just dominating. And then you're thinking, okay, third game, fine. Vasquez, why is he the third guy? And I kept trying to explain, in spring training, he might have been, he might have just been in, that's where he was in line. Pavetta was set back a day or two or whatever to just kind of make it that way. And you're thinking, okay, here we go. Maybe we'll get a loss tonight, or we'll see what happens. And he pitches absolutely lights out. And then you go into next to the Pavetta start. One hit. He gave up one hit. He won one player over the minimum.
So good. And then yesterday, Kyle Hart making his, and now he made his major league debut in 2020, but that was in front of empty stadiums. He's gone and pitched in Korea, so he's seen some crowds and seen some energy, but nothing like what he experienced last night. So his major league re-debut and got the win. He did a great job. He's your number 5 starter. Don't expect him to be the whiff king. He pitches to contact. He nibbles around the edge of the zone, but he's got the movement and the command to make it all work. And he knows how to pitch. He demonstrated that last night. So baseball is going on all over the place. We've got a packed house, 45,000 people, professional, all the broadcasters are back and all the lights and all that. And then you look at Sacramento, and the A's played their first couple of games in Sacramento, and it's been a little bit stunning. I haven't watched any of the games yet, but I've seen some of the highlights. They're doing their press conferences in a tin shed, in a temporary structure that they put up for that. The clubhouse is in left field, so you can't go from the bullpen to the clubhouse. You have to walk like between the fence and the fans to get like there's a space there, but and so you got to hear it from all the fans right up there as you're walking from the bullpen back to the clubhouse. You can't go from the dugout directly to the clubhouse, so it's a little different feeling. I saw somebody say the last time that they had that kind of a situation was when Candlestick was still around. So it's going to be interesting to see how visiting teams adapt to it, and also how the A's players adapt to that. And then there were also some broadcast difficulties. So this is going to be kind of a running subcurrent as this season goes by.
Right. A little bit of embarrassment. And this is not just this season. It's going to be this season, next season, and probably into 27 easily.
Right. And then over on the other coast, you've got the Tampa Bay Rays playing in the Yankees facility. And I don't know how long that's going to be going on as well. So a couple of unusual situations. And what if they make the postseason? Then what?
Right. Well, to go to, think of the Suter Home Park. My sister-in-law lives out there, and that's kind of their home ballpark. It's in a baseball person, but it's not a home ballpark. And that place gets incredibly hot. Like that press room I tweeted out, like it's going to be an oven. In about 2 months, it's going to be unbearable. They're going to have to do something else because it's just way too hot to have no ventilation. I didn't see any ventilation. It's one of those pop-up tents you get when you do a big catering gig, I feel. But just it's not going to be good. And it's a little bit of an embarrassment for Major League Baseball to have this happen, and having both those actually, the Tampa Bay, having them not be, it'd be a natural disaster that ruined their ballpark. But still, it's just kind of a little bit of blight for Major League Baseball, and we'll see how it goes because it's going to be interesting. The money that's involved. I'm sure the place sells out, but it's only what, maybe 8,000-10,000, or was it 12,000 people in that stadium? I saw some of the cutaway. I saw some pictures of the cutaway in on X in a blue sky, where they showed the outfield, and it's the berm. It's like spring training. um, just ridiculous. But we'll see how that goes. And it's just, the A fans are the former A's fans are just probably reveling in just a buffoonery that it looks like for Major League Baseball and for John. Is it John Fisher? I think his name is.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. I mean, so Ricky Henderson passed away. They had a moment of silence here at
Yep.
Petco Park, but they had a moment to observe his. They brought his daughters out for the first pitch and all that, but they should have been celebrating him in what the ballpark that he called
Right.
home for most of his
Right.
career. And it really is a shame. And Rob Manfred talking about for expansion, they want a place with a full stadium with all the infrastructure. And now here, two of your major league teams are playing in minor league facilities. It's not a good look.
Yeah.
Speaking of not a good look, we got some bad news the other day about Jurickson Profar. It kind of came as a surprise, but then you take a step back and look at it, a guy at age 31 having a career season where all of these metrics all of a sudden spike. I know some people weren't too surprised that he wound up getting popped for performance enhancing drugs.
Well, it's interesting that it happened in the off season, and he can't go, look, I accidentally took something. He can't do the well, I had ringworm cream on my neck and absorbed into my skin. It's interesting how they just signed him, and this happens, and haven't it could have been a fluke that he just kind of had the great year last year and he's kind of put it all together. People are going to point to that as being maybe due to steroids. He's gotten tested a lot, in his statement. He did talk about how often he was tested last year. I think what happens in the off season, I heard a little bit of this morning on Ben Woods, our local radio station here, and it kind of made sense where, in the off season, there's maybe some ways you can kind of skirt the testing because the guys are tested throughout the year, but there's probably ways and timing where you can kind of cycle a little bit in some of the stuff till you build up some strength, and get some work done, and then kind of get away with it. And maybe in this last offseason, it didn't happen. The funny thing is he works out with Tatis and Tatis Senior. So, with Tatis having this happen to him a couple years ago, and then having Profar having to Profar this last off season, it makes you wonder. It really makes you wonder. I'll stop short of saying anything else, but I know that that's where they work out. They work out together, and they specifically work out with Tatis Senior.
Right. Well, let's hope that everything's on the up and up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still was a fan of Jurickson Profar the last couple of years. The energy that he brought to San Diego was irreplaceable. So he was such a fun person to follow. I was looking forward to him doing things in Atlanta this year.
Yeah.
And so now we're gonna have to wait half the season to see him again. He's out for 80 games. Interestingly, if the Braves make the postseason, he will be ineligible for that. I understand that's something that was added in the most recent CBA. I didn't realize that was part of the penalty.
I did not know that. That's very interesting. And to your point, like, and I still love Profar. I don't love Manny Ramirez any less. You don't love Big Poppy any less. All those guys failed drug tests. Now when there's such a severe penalty, it's a little bit tougher to take, especially after signing a large contract like that. You've made your money, and sometimes people feel the need to do more once you sign that contract. And you hear a lot of those players in the past talk about, like, yeah, I signed the big contract and I just tried too hard. And in baseball, you don't try too hard. You try less. And really, his strength's super sad. But I'm still going to love him. I'm still going to root for him every time he plays against us. And then obviously when when he comes back and plays for the Braves, I'll root for him to do well. But
well, it was nice to see him get the reception that he got when he came
yeah,
back to San Diego on
yeah,
opening day.
yeah, absolutely. So moving
All
on.
right, so let's step over to minor league stuff. We got our minor league minute here. There is one transaction to talk about. Tyler Wade passed through waivers and was outrighted to El Paso today. So I'm happy to hear that he's going to stay in the organization. I think he's going to go off in El Paso. he makes a lot of contact. He's got some strength. We saw some of that. I mean, you see him in batting practice. So I think you put him down at that slightly lower level of competition, and all of a sudden, I think he's going to rake. It's weird how guys. I mean, I think back to like Carlos Asuaje and Jose Pirela and guys like that
Yeah.
posting crazy numbers down in El Paso. I think you're going to see some of that from Tyler Wade, and then some of the doubters would be like, "Wait, what's that guy doing in AAA?"
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of remember the bump you get going to the PCL, especially as a veteran.
Exactly. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but talk about the guy who did make the club, and that's Brandon Lockridge. Uh, he came through. What was it? He was a throwing piece. Was he just a throwing piece, or was he just a?
Enyel De Los Santos, the trade that sent Enyel De Los Santos to the Yankees, who, by the way, is on the Braves roster now. We saw him this
Right.
weekend. Oh, and I meant to tell you offline, but I saw Joey Cantillo yesterday.
Oh,
We wanted to go to one of the games of the Cleveland series so we could say hi to Joey. He's out there in the bullpen. He came over and said hi to me and Angela. So he's not big time in anybody. He is still the same nice, humble kid that he always was. He's just now got a big league jersey on, and so proud of Joey Cantillo.
absolutely stoked. I'm so stoked you got a chance to say hi to him. I still have his number, and occasionally I'll see something happen and shoot him a text. Sometimes I get replies, sometimes I don't. That's great. He's in the bullpen. He did start a game, in the playoffs last year, for Cleveland, and it didn't go over so well. But hey, he's a major league pitcher, and he has lots of room to grow. And the Hawaiian K is on a major league field. That's really cool.
Right. So Brandon Lockridge, you were getting to.
Yeah, dude. I mean, just he got the double last night. I love the opposite field power. The speed there, I think, is the main factor. I think they really got him for is the late inning replacement pinch runner, steal a bag, get him over in a defensive replacement, and got the knock last night. And so we'll see what happens as the season goes on, how well he performs. And did he, like I asked, did he come over in a trade? Did we trade? Was he a throw in, or was he just like a minor league trade?
No, he was the return for Enyel De Los Santos to the
Okay, yeah.
Yankees.
I'm sorry. I've been eating all day, so I'm still I'm still thinking. Anyways, yeah. So we'll see. The roster is as it's going. It looks good. Um, One of the things I want to talk about when we talk to Kyle Glaser is with your Connor Jones down in AAA, with your Tirso Ornelas down in AAA, how long do how long like guys like Iglesias, and how long do guys like like Jason Hayward, how long of a leash those guys get? We didn't get a chance to ask him about that, but we did ask him about Tirso Ornelas. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that all depends on performance. I mean, so Jason Hayward, he got off to a little bit of a slow start, but now he's had a couple of big knocks. I mean, we have yet to see Gurriel slow start, but he got one big hit in the game the other day. Today's Iglesias' first start in the field. So you take a look at how they do for the first month and a half of the season, and then if you look down, you got Connor Joe raking, you got
Yeah.
Tirso Ornelas looking good. By the way, he made a start in center field last night, or the day before. So I wonder if they're trying to sell that he's more than a corner
Corner
only
outfielder.
fielder. Um, yeah, so if he shows that, okay, lefty hitter, he's got some power, he can move, but it all depends on what's going on the field. I know that, and we've seen that Schilt and his team, they really do prefer the veterans, and I
Right.
I get that they're going to make the steady play. They're not going to make the rookie mistakes. And when a team's trying to compete, they don't have time for those rookie mistakes. They don't have time to let guys learn on the fly, because this is when the rubber has to hit the road.
Right.
And so
Right.
I think that the veterans are going to get a little longer leash. And the rookies are really going to need to prove their worth. But Connor Joe is the interesting one that I really want to keep
Yeah.
an eye on, because if Gurriel gets off to a slow start, and then here you've got somebody who's also a right-handed hitter, also plays first base, and it won't be the Matt Carpenter situation where you've got a $16 million contract and they're not willing to write him off. It'll be more like Nelson Cruz, Rougned Odor, where you watch a guy struggle for a couple of months, and all right, happy trails to you, because the next man up.
Absolutely. Well, hey, let's get into a little bit of the couple games this weekend, starting on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Ryan Burgett got his AAA debut as the opening pitcher for the Chihuahuas. Did really well, 4 innings pitched. He had 3 hits, just 1 earned run. Uh, the fastball looked good at 93 to 95. It was hitting 96 at times. I only watched about 2 innings of that game. I totally forgot it was on. I caught a little bit of it, and he looked really good. He gave a solo shot to Scott Kingery, which at one time I thought was a really top prospect. But gave up the 2 run, gave the home run, and then the bullpen for those guys. First game solid, only giving 2 runs out of the last 5 innings.
Right. And then on Sunday, Stephen Kolek pitched a gem with 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 strikeouts, a walk, and a hit by a hit batsman. The odd man out of that fifth starter competition.
Yeah.
But he's just going to go down there and keep proving him that he'll get his chance. I think both of those guys, we'll see them both up. I think before the All-Star break, they'll both get an opportunity to start at some point.
Absolutely. And sandwiched in there was a really rough start from Jared Kohler, who gave up 5 runs. It is the Pacific Coast League, so you can throw that one away. But seeing when you do perform in the Triple and in the Pacific Coast League, sorry, it really stands out. So those two guys having really good first starts is something to be to hang your hat on. But certainly a long season in the Pacific Coast League. So don't be surprised if we come back with next time Brian Brigham gave up 5 runs and 3 hits and 5 runs in 3 innings and didn't get out of the fourth or whatever. Right. But let's move quickly onto the screws. I'm running out of gas here. I've been up very early this morning and I haven't had dinner yet. So
All right. So then on Friday, Luis Camposano had 3 hits. They were all singles, but each of them had an exit velocity of 107, 105, and 109 miles an hour. So he's hitting the ball hard.
Yeah.
But the bopper of the game was San Diego native Trenton Brooks. Brooks, the Granite Hills alum, crushed 2 solo homers. He comes over as a minor league free agent after a big league debut with the Giants. Just a cup of coffee with the Giants.
Yeah. The Camposano, it is the Pacific Coast League, but I wonder if since the pressure is off there in AAA, and he's comfortable and he's familiar with it, that maybe he's able to perform a little bit better. Obviously, the competition is AAA, 4A, but I wonder if he can perform when the pressure is off. The spring training is a tryout, is essentially. And so there's some pressure on there. So the more pressure you put on that guy, maybe he kind of tightens up a little bit and, is unwilling to perform. And when he doesn't perform, it kind of snowballs. And maybe that's why he didn't have the greatest spring training. It could be the new swing, but glad to see he's just shooting, 107 at your head.
Right. Well, speaking of hitting the ball all over the field, on Sunday, Tirso went 3 for 4, 2 runs, 2 RBIs. He had a good weekend. He's reached safely in 7 of his 14 plate appearances. But I pulled his numbers up here. Every hit he's had so far has gone for a single. And so earlier you asked, what's it going to take for him to get his opportunity to come up? And I think they really are waiting for him to show the power. He's shown it in the past that he can hit the ball hard. You look at the batted ball metrics and it looks good from a velocity standpoint. But he's ground ball heavy and maybe line drives over the infielder's head. But they're waiting for him to start hitting those laser beams that are bouncing off the top of the wall, like Dave Winfield style stuff.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to have to start going on a run of that kind of performance really to earn the next look.
Yeah, and he has plenty of time to do it. It's just beginning of the season. But that's it. Before we turn it over to Kyle Glaser, I want to talk about the go to YouTube, subscribe, go to Apple, hit subscribe, give us a review. This is a little bit rough episode for me, but also we're still working with the Chihuahuas on the shirt. The shirts did not come in this weekend, so I have not heard from Dave. They're not being sold. As soon as they come in, I'm going to be sent a link. We'll put it out into the ether, and then we'll start raising money. And we're raising money for the El Paso Child Crisis Center. The El Paso Child Crisis Center is a distinguished local nonprofit organization that operates as a 501c entity and proudly serving the community of El Paso. The emergency shelter operates independently of federal funding, relying solely on their generosity of community donations. The children who we serve at our shelter have often endured unimaginable hardships, and it's our utmost priority to ensure their well-being by providing them with essential services. Our shelter serves as a secure sanctuary where children can again regain their sense of normalcy from free from concerns of harm, hunger, homelessness, or isolation. So that's coming along. Hopefully this week I'll be able to get the shirts will be in, they'll be put in the store, and we'll get a link. But meanwhile, before one more time before we send it off to Kyle, the El Paso Chihuahuas have a new identity. Their new identity is the bootmakers, the El Paso bootmakers, and it's a boot what's the word there? It's a when it's a human kind of it's a boot
An
with eyes.
anthropomorphic boot.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we need to get the backstory. There's got to be some history of boot manufacturing,
Yeah,
leather boot manufacturing in El Paso. So we need to get a hold of somebody to get the backstory on that. Maybe we can get a hold of Tim Haggerty or somebody over at El Paso to get that one.
absolutely. Well, actually, I'll maybe email David and ask him where that was from. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so let's kick it over to Kyle Glaser.
Till
Hey,
then,
we're joined here with Kyle Glaser, old friend of the podcast from Friar Territory. Welcome back to the show, man.
Hey guys, good to be back on with you. It's been a little while.
It has been so, and you're at the ballpark now, so we're going to do this real quick, and we'll get you on your way. And we all got to get back to ball up to the game. So, talk a little bit about Friar Territory and how that came apart. About
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, as you guys know, I was at Baseball Americas, their lead national writer for 8 years. Left them last year in 2024. Currently writing for MLB.com right now, just kind of bouncing around between LA, Anaheim, and San Diego. So I've been doing that the last 2 seasons. And then with that, Foul Territory is a great show. They've been kind enough to have me on a bunch as a guest over the years. And we had some conversations about finding a lane for me to, maybe do something that was kind of my own show in a way. And just given my history with the Padres and my connections with the organization, both from covering the team as a beat writer back when I was with the Riverside News Enterprise to all the work I did with them during my time at Baseball America, made sense. So, yeah, we launched Friar Territory on the Foul Territory Network about 2 months ago. We're growing slowly but surely. We've got Heath Bell and Mike Cameron on every week as co-hosts, just breaking down all things Padres. It's been a good time so far.
Heath Bell was my manager when I went to fantasy camp a few years
how'd you
back.
wind up getting hooked up with Mike Cameron?
Okay, so real
How'd you wind up
quick,
getting hooked up with those guys?
Yeah, when we were putting the show together, we wanted to bring in some ex-players that could really add perspective. Obviously, as a reporter, I could talk about the first person reporting and, what the players are saying, what the manager's saying, and provide the analysis from that lens. But players who have been there, who have done that, who have been on the field, they can just provide a level of insight that really no one else can. So we were looking for guys who had spent time in the Padres uniform that we knew were very outgoing, and we just felt like could add, really a lot of great insight to the show. And Mike and Heath are both two players who spent a number of years here in San Diego, were beloved by the fans, and having both a position player and a pitcher, just able to provide all the different experiences and insights from what they're seeing and their own experiences were. We felt like that would be the best possible show for the fans, and fortunately, I was able to connect with them and talk it through with them, and they were both on board.
That's fantastic. So before we get into what we do in the minor league side, I mean 5-0 for the upstart Padres. It's pretty phenomenal. How has it been at the ballpark?
It's been fantastic. All 5 games have been a sellout, and you just feel the energy both in the clubhouse, on the field, and in the stands. We're seeing a lot of the traits that made the Padres so successful last year carry over into this year. Just that resilience, that composure, late game situations. The first 3 games against the Braves, they were either trailing or tied going into the 7th inning or later. They broke through and found ways to win. Even the series finale, it's 2-0 in the 7th inning. It's still a close game, and boom, they scored 3 runs there in the final innings to put it away. We're just seeing a team that is able to execute and do all the little things and the big things. We're seeing stolen bases. We're seeing first to thirds. We're seeing beating out ground ball double plays to keep innings alive. We're seeing great defensive plays. All the little things that add up over a course of the game give you some extra at bats, give you extra 90 feet here or there, and eventually it pays off. The Padres are playing really, really good, high quality baseball, really all around. Hitting, defense, pitching. The bullpen's been absolutely phenomenal. They're playing as complete a baseball as you can remember. Again, it's only 5 games. No one wins a pennant on April 1st, but it's been as good of a start as you can hope for. It's not like they're 5-0 where, one unit is just carrying the team and papering over some other very obvious deficiencies. All around, they're playing great baseball.
What kind of has
What do you
surprised
think's
you?
been the biggest surprise so
Yeah.
far?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're getting the contributions you are for the bottom of the lineup, you have to be pretty happy. Coming into the year, we knew that the top six in this lineup was going to be dangerous, but there are some real questions. The bottom third, you're talking about guys who are veterans who were brought in on minor league deals, non-roster invitees who are getting, significant playing time, like a Gavin Sheets, like a Eguy, guys like Jason Hayward, who just frankly have not hit for the last 4 years, and you don't know if it's going to still be in there. And then two catchers, Elias Diaz and Martin Maldonado, who, Diaz has been up and down offensively over the course of his career. Maldonado, look, we know what he is. He's a great defender. You just didn't know how much offense you were going to get from the bottom of the order. And so they've gotten a bunch. Gavin Sheets has completely transformed himself and become the hitter we thought he was going to be out of Wake Forest. We saw Jason Hayward kind of get off the schneid last night with a big double and a long sac fly. Even Diaz and Martin Maldonado have been chipping in with some RBI knocks. So I think getting the production from the bottom third of the lineup was just such a big question coming into the season. Again, there's a lot of baseball left. We have to see how much it carries forward. But thus far, I think that's been the most pleasant surprise and something that's really been beneficial to the club now.
Well, you would think that the Dodgers have already won the World Series if you watch the MLB Twitter, but that's another story. So let's get into what we want to talk about. And what I was really surprised this spring training was Tirso Ornelas not making the team out of spring training. He had a strong start, but the power didn't really show up in spring training. Is that kind of the reason why they kind of let him go back to the AAA?
I think it's more a situation where you look at the guys in camp, the way the roster was kind of configured, some of the more veteran players the Padres brought in. It was not a surprise that, Jose Iglesias was probably going to make the roster once they signed him. One other bench spot was going to go to a backup catcher. In this case was Maldonado. And for those final two bench spots, once they decided Yuli Gurriel was going to be on the team, they needed an outfielder who could play all three outfield positions, and Tirso is really limited to the corner. So I think it was more just a roster construction thing. I will say with Tirso, he came out and really did everything he needed to do in terms of showing up, hitting the ball hard. We saw hard contact to all fields. A lot of his success did come early in camp against guys who, probably are not going to be big leaguers. That as we got later on, he slumped a little bit. So I do think he could have benefited from more AAA time. But just the fact that Tirso Ornelas is here is a testament. There was a point when he was in like Elsinore where he was hitting 220. His swing was big, it was long, it was slow. The Padres sent him back down to Arizona in August to completely rework his swing middle of the season. That's how badly he was struggling. And for him to put in the work, revamp his swing, fight through a bunch of injuries over the course of his career, and get himself to the cusp of the majors, it's really a testament to his work ethic, his poise, his maturity, and just his resilience. I mean, just to be frank, there was a point where it looked like Tirso Ornelas wasn't going to get out of A-ball, maybe maybe a cup of coffee in Double-A with just the way his swing was working. Now he's coming off a huge year in Triple-A, Padres minor league player of the year, made a case for himself in camp, and probably will be up at some point this year. I just give him all the credit in the world for everything he's been through, putting in the work to get to this point.
So moving over to Eguy Rosario, another guy who kind of doesn't have anywhere to go, but where does he go? Are they going to trade him? Is he going to make it through waivers? We're both big fans of Eguy and Tirso, going back to our days in Lake Elsinore with those guys. Yeah. It seemed like he had a really good spring as well. Just there's the infield is so packed, and with the addition of Iglesias, he just was an odd man out.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't hit as well as you would have liked this spring. I think the thing with Eguy Rosario is, look, he can play second, he can play third, he cannot play shortstop. I've seen him try to do it. It's not pretty. The Padres tried to get him some time out in the outfield this year, and that's going to work in progress. I think with Eguy Rosario, where he fits is as, a solid utility man with some pop, a smaller guy, but he's got some pop. And right now, if you're a contending team like the Padres, a first division club, you either carry him as your bench utility guy, or if someone else takes that spot, there's not really an obvious spot for him. So AJ Preller on opening day talked about, they had fielded a lot of trade interest in Eguy Rosario. They had the 10 days to trade him, or guess go on waivers. Um, we'll see. I think there's a strong possibility he does end up in another organization. I think it's just going to more of a second division club where he's able to, get some time as a utility man. That would be the best fit for him. But yeah, look, he's been in the big leagues. There's enough traits there to like as that, second base, third base, right-handed hitter off the bench. He can provide some pop for you. There just isn't a great fit right now on the Padres given their roster and also where they are in their contention cycle.
Yeah. So thinking of his value, if he goes off to another organization, you don't really feel like you're going to miss out too much. But what is the value there? Are we looking for a trade? Is it going to be, a depth pitcher in AAA or the depth player in the lower minors kind of value here?
Yeah, so players who are designated for assignment rarely bring back much in a trade just because you don't have a ton of leverage. Again, the Padres will be able to leverage the fact that if they do have multiple offers, like AJ Preller has said, they might be able to leverage some of the returns that way. But at the end of the day, a DFA player, it's going to bring back someone who's someone who won't be on the 40 man. The Padres don't have 40 man space. So yeah, it's likely going to be an A-ball pitcher, something of that ilk. But we'll see. And who knows? Maybe the Padres are able to come up with a scouting coup there. But yeah, I would set low expectations for any DFA player in a trade. It's not just him; it's just the nature of the process.
I've noticed with Eguy that he strikes out quite a bit. He's been running a strikeout rate well into the 30% each of the last 3 years, all of his time he's had in the majors. And I'd like to think that had something to do with it just doesn't quite fit the philosophy of what the Padres are trying to do right now. I want to ask you about Luis Camposano. We saw him take a step back last year. A lot of people were hoping that he would wind up playing a more prominent role this spring, but now he's back in El Paso again. He got passed up by a couple of veterans that they brought in. What do you think his future is with the Padres organization?
That's up to him. The thing with Luis Camposano has always been, and I've said this since he was in 2017 in Fort Wayne, or 2018 in Fort Wayne. He can hit. His defense needs and ability to lead his pitching staff have always needed work. That relationship building with teammates has never been a strength of his, and it's something that has held him back. It has made multiple coaching staffs prefer other catchers just because they don't fully trust him behind the plate. And until he is able to make the adjustments to where coaches and pitchers feel like they can trust him behind the plate, both with his physical skills and his mental preparation and mindset, it's going to be hard for him to stick. It's really going to be up to him to take this as a wake-up call and maybe make the changes he needs to make.
That's tough. All right, so we've followed you as a prospect writer. I know now you're focusing more major league centric, but you've been familiar with the Padres organization for so many years. As we move into 2025, who do you think are some of the prospects that the Padres might be able to rely on at some point this season?
Yeah, I think it's really going to be the arms. We've seen a lot of their position player prospects that project to be, more impactful types are guys who have yet to play above A ball or have barely played above A ball. They need time. These are teenagers, the Ethan Salases, the Leo Dallas's, DeVries's. I think when you look at some of the arms, we saw Ryan Berger get put on the 40-man roster. He showed some good stuff in spring training. I would not be surprised to see him at some point in the majors this year. Francis Pena is another, big arm, big fastball, good changeup. I think we can see him coming out of the bullpen at some point. Bradley Rodriguez, again, we saw in spring training, shows some real electric stuff out of that arm. Again, he's the elite fastball, elite changeup. Sorry, Pena is more just straight fastball. I think where we're going to see a lot of the Padres prospects this year in the majors is going to be as bullpen depth. We'll see if some guys come up and make a spot start here or there. That's really where, again, there's really not a lot of depth for this organization right now. And the AAA ready depth really is, on kind of that bullpen depth side. One of the things, and this is just a function of the Padres have traded away so many prospects over the years. The Padres don't have a guy in AAA who projects to be an everyday player right now. The Dodgers have Dalton Rushing. Last year, they landed back Andy Pages, guys they could call up who projected to be everyday guys. They called him up to plug holes. The Padres don't have that guy. The Diamondbacks having a Jordan Lawler. The Padres don't have that guy. Even the Giants, Kyle Harrison going down to AAA to start the year, he projects to be a rotation piece moving forward. The Padres don't have that guy. It's just not where their system is right now. So it really is just going to be more the depth pieces.
You've seen Gabriel Arias last night, and then real quick, and then CJ Abrams and James Wood going back to back against the Nationals. I think that was the night before. Just, they're all gone. They're all showing up in other organizations.
And again,
well, it seems like the Padres have replaced a lot of those guys with AAA depth pieces like Mike Brasso, Trenton Brooks, that kind of player.
And that's what they've had to do. They've had to go out on the minor league free agency side and pick those guys up. Look, the Padres have drafted very well. They've developed just fine. They've just used these guys in trades. I think it's just, and look, some of them have worked out, right? You look at the Yu Darvish trade. The Padres should make that every day of the week. Joe Musgrove trade, absolutely. The Blake Snell trade, absolutely. Then you have some others like the Mike Clevenger trade, which did not work out. The Austin Nola trade has not looked good. You're going to have some pluses and some minuses, but hey, look around the big leagues right now. I mean, like you said, with Abrams and Wood, Graham Pauley's playing in Miami. We have Gabriel Arias here. Josh Naylor's out in Arizona. Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, David Bednar just got sent down, but he was an all-star at his peak. I mean, there's a lot of and by the way, Cal Quantrill and Ty France both had some really, really good seasons as well at other organizations at their peak. So there's a lot of really good ex-Padres running around the majors right now, but the Padres are a good team in the majors as well. And at the end of the day, that's the goal. So there's different ways to do it. This is just how the Padres have done it.
All right. So we really appreciate you taking the time. A couple of questions just to kind of wrap up here.
Yeah.
The soft serve. Have you hit the soft serve machine over there in the press box yet?
Oh, way too often. Yeah, no, I like to go and I get the swirl, and then they also have like the cookies and brownies off to the side. I'll get the brownies and like smash it in and get some of the sprinkles. Yeah, no, baseball season like 185, and by the end I'm like pushing 200. I gotta get, especially as I hit my 30s, I need to be way more disciplined.
Right. Okay, so where can we find your content? Where can people find you?
Yeah. So, writing for MLB.com, you can find me there. Then also you can go on YouTube on Friar Territory. Go ahead and subscribe there. We also are on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. And subscribe to the whole Foul Territory family. Again, the main show, I'm on there a lot as well, doing some analysis. But I'd say right now, the main thing, go to Friar Territory, subscribe, leave us reviews, and we're on 3 times a week with Mike Cameron, Heath Moe, breaking down all things Padres and Major League Baseball as a whole. We're talking about all of it. So definitely come and subscribe and give us a watch and a listen.
I really appreciate you coming on, Kyle. We'll talk to you later.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.